Cliff Richard's public persona was that of a flawless, clean-cut pop idol. Yet behind the smiles and stadium lights lay a private world of longing, heartbreak, and resilience. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he never married and never had children, yet his life was profoundly shaped by love and loss. For decades, fans admired the surface, a polished entertainer who seemed to have it all, without knowing the private ache he carried. This is the story of a man whose devotion was not just to fame, but to music, faith, and a love that quietly defined him. A secret love. Olivia Newton-John. In 1971, Cliff Richard invited a young Australian singer, Olivia Newton-John, onto his TV variety show. At 22, she was bright-eyed, velvet-voiced, and unknown in Britain. To Cliff, it wasn't just talent he saw, it was something deeper. He later confessed she became a friend for life, but privately, he had fallen for her. The complication was cruel. Olivia was engaged to Bruce Welch, Cliff's longtime bandmate from the Shadows. Cliff respected the boundaries. Though their connection was intense and visible in subtle ways, he never confessed or interfered, carrying the love like a secret song that would never be sung. Timing and tragedy. Love that couldn't be. Olivia and Bruce's engagement made any possibility for Cliff impossible. Even when the couple broke up in 1973, Cliff remained silent. Rumors swirled. Some believed Olivia had feelings for Cliff. Others assumed he kept distance to protect both friendships. Regardless, he never clarified, never performed his unspoken emotions. Their bond endured, not diminished by absence or restraint. For decades, they stayed close as creative partners and confidants. When they sang together, the emotion felt real, almost palpable, a connection that never needed naming. For Cliff, this restrained love became a lifelong companion, quietly shaping his personal and artistic choices. A lifetime of connection. Even after years, Cliff and Olivia's bond endured. In 2015, at the Royal Albert Hall, Olivia flew in to surprise him for a final duet. Their voices intertwined seamlessly, a farewell that the audience sensed only as magical harmony. Just weeks before her death in 2022, Cliff called her. She answered warmly, never hinting at her illness. That phone call marked the end of a love story that had never begun formally, but had existed in shared moments, music, and mutual respect. For Cliff, this enduring connection was both comfort and sorrow, a silent reminder of what might have been. Early life, Harry Roger Webb. Before fame, Cliff was Harry Roger Webb, born October 14, 1940, in King George's Hospital, Lucknow, British India. His early life was framed by privilege, open verandas, servants, comfort, thanks to his father's work in Indian railways. But the post-war world changed everything. By 1948, the family evacuated India amid the end of colonial rule, boarding the SS Ranch for England. The voyage was long and strange, leaving Harry disoriented. England's rationed, gray post-war landscape replaced India's warmth. These early dislocations instilled resilience and adaptability in him, shaping the boy who would become Cliff Richard. The struggle between two worlds planted seeds that would define his identity and music. Post-colonial exile and adaptation. Arriving in England was both an end and a beginning. Harry faced a country still recovering from war, where comfort was scarce and every meal counted. He had to adapt quickly, finding footing in a world that never felt entirely like home. These early hardships, loss of one world, transition to another, taught him perseverance and self-reliance. The young boy learned to bend without breaking, a skill that would later anchor him through fame, heartbreak, and scandal. In this cultural limbo, he began forming a personal identity separate from the colonial privilege he was born into, laying the groundwork for the star he would eventually become. Breaking into music, a new British identity. By 1958, Britain had no true rock and roll scene. Charts were dominated by American stars, Elvis, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, while British acts either imitated or stayed tame. Cliff Richard entered this void with a quiff, a cheap guitar, and an urgency that demanded attention. He wasn't wealthy nor streetwise, but he carried the weight of post-imperial exile, a restless energy longing for expression. Early recordings were safe, but the B-side hinted at something different, a raw, daring sound. Cliff's music didn't copy America. It sought to fill a silence Britain had grown accustomed to, creating an identity for British teenagers hungry for their own voice. The turning point in Soundcliff's early singles struggled, considered dated and unremarkable. Even his Christian faith, once quietly revolutionary, seemed a barrier in an industry chasing edginess. Yet he didn't quit. In the studio, he embraced darker, more emotionally complex material, defying expectations and challenging norms. That boldness resonated with a generation seeking authenticity. Cliff's willingness to confront emotional depth set him apart. Unlike many, he sang not to imitate, but to express, turning personal struggle into music that connected across decades. His resilience became part of the artistry that would sustain him through fame, disappointment, and controversy alike. Public scandal and private pain. Cliff's life wasn't without trauma. In a notorious scandal, he faced public scrutiny for allegations that were ultimately false. The ordeal involved media intrusion, police raids, and widespread suspicion. Though he won legally, the damage lingered. Trust eroded, sleep lost, anxiety endured. Unlike a simple career setback, the experience wounded his sense of safety and fairness. It was a trial not in court alone, but in public perception, where judgment arrived before facts. Through it all, he remained composed outwardly, yet deeply wounded internally, demonstrating a resilience that extended beyond music into the very essence of his character. Triumph and resilience. Despite heartbreak, exile, and public scandal, Cliff Richard endured. He released over 100 singles, achieved 14 #1 hits, and sold more than 250 million records worldwide. Remarkably, he had #1 hits across 5 consecutive decades, a testament to both talent and persistence. But statistics only tell part of the story. Beyond sales, he survived personal loss, unfulfilled love, and public mistrust, continuing to make music that touched hearts. His life exemplifies quiet endurance, a commitment not to superficial success, but to artistry, belief, and moral integrity. His story is one of survival as much as it is of fame. Legacy beyond music. Cliff Richard's life teaches that fame and public adoration are not measures of fulfillment. His deepest commitment was to love, faith, and resilience, rather than marriage or conventional family. From the young boy navigating post-colonial exile to the pop idol facing scandal and heartbreak, he carried himself with quiet dignity. His music became a channel for emotion that could not always be spoken aloud. The love he held for Olivia, the injustices he endured, and the integrity with which he faced the world collectively define his legacy, one of steadfastness, empathy, and courage in the face of life's relentless challenges. Conclusion: a life of enduring strength. Cliff Richard's story is a study in perseverance. From post-war exile to chart-topping success, from silent heartbreak to public vindication, he endured trials few could imagine. Love, loss, and moral fortitude shaped not only his music but his character. He never stopped singing, never stopped believing, and never let adversity define him. In the end, Cliff Richard is more than a pop icon. He is a symbol of resilience, grace, and the quiet strength required to live authentically in a world that often misunderstands or judges too quickly. His legacy continues to inspire.